Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Sports Mecca for another episode of Bragging Rights. I got Nick Stokes. I got Jacob Bonner. Gentlemen, are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
All right, for those of you who have never seen the show before, this is how the format works. First thing that we are going to do is I'm going to ask the contestants a question. They're going to give me a 1-minute response, and then they're going to get 1 minute to rebuttal. And in a new edition, they're going to get 2 minutes to just go at each other back and forth however they see fit. After the 4-minute period is up, I will decide the winner of the question. First 1 to 3 wins, 5 questions. Understand the rules?
Let's do it.
Got it.
All right, here we go. So this episode of Bragging Rights, we are focusing on the NBA. NBA season is creeping up on us. So, guys, after a wild season of trades and moves, who was the winner? Explain. Jacob Bonner, you won last week's episode of Bragging Rights, so you can do the honors.
All right. I think if there's a team that had the best offseason, it has to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's not just because they got superstars, which they did. They got Carmelo Anthony, they got Paul George. But it's because of what they gave up to get these superstars, which is so important. Like a team like the Houston Rockets got Chris Paul, but they gave up so much. They gave up guys like Lou Williams. They gave up guys like Patrick Beverley. What a huge loss. Instead, all the Thunder had to give up for Paul George was Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo, and all they had to give up for Carmelo Anthony was Enes Kanter and Doug McDermott and a second-round pick. That is such a small price to pay for two guys. Even if Melo's past his prime a little bit, he's still going to be the third option that's on this team. He's going to be able to play almost a Kevin Love, Ryan Anderson role for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think getting these players for so cheap, as well as other signings, Patrick Patterson is a perfect fit for that team as a floor-spacing big guy. I love the Thunder's offseason.
Fair enough. You were at 10 seconds to tell you to finish up. So, Nick, trades and offseason moves, who is the winner and why?
Well, first off, I do believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder have done a good job of acquiring 2 superstars, but they definitely did not win the offseason because they have more issues that they need to take care of. My winner for this summer's offseason is the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I say that simply because for the price of one sidekick player in Kyrie Irving, they have revamped their roster to look like the Eastern Conference All-Star team. They now have starting at point guard Isaiah Thomas. Then you have Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, yes, may be older, may be far from his prime. However, him and that chemistry with LeBron James again, it's like that connection that you saw in Miami. It's all over. It's all over again yet in Cleveland. Then you have a former MVP, the youngest MVP ever in the NBA, coming off the bench. Derrick Rose is coming off the bench this year. Last season, he had valuable stats around like 17 points a game, about 4 or 5 assists a game. With that type of contribution coming off the bench, that gives LeBron what he always wanted, was a floor, somebody who can facilitate the floor when he is not on the court. And with that addition, that is definitely uplifted their chances of making a leap to beat Golden State in this year's finals.
All right.
Is Rose really that big of an upgrade? I guess the Cavs did need a backup point guard last year. Mm-hmm. But what is Rose going to do specifically to help these Cavs get past the Warriors? Because that's obviously the goal.
Okay.
Rose can't space the floor like LeBron's going to want out of his backup point guards. He takes a lot of shots, which is also something LeBron's not going to want. I don't think Rose is some big addition that's going to push the Cavs over the top. And the big problem I have with the Cavs this offseason is that they did not re-sign LeBron James. The Thunder re-signed Russell Westbrook, I believe, a couple of days ago, 5 years, $205 million, which is a lot, but it's Russell Westbrook, and it's the new NBA. You got to pay a lot of money to keep your stars. So you can say now, you can guarantee that Russell Westbrook is not going to the Lakers. Can you say that about LeBron?
Yes, you can, if you ask me. LeBron James really just had the opportunity to revamp and change the direction of the Cleveland Cavaliers, which in my opinion furthers his chances of re-signing with the team. Now, has there been a deal put on the table yet? No, of course not. During the season, they'll see how things goes, which once the season starts, they'll be able to dominate the Eastern Conference like they've always been. However, this time around, LeBron will have less worries throughout the season. With that said, he'll have more of a willingness to stay in Cleveland, and plus, if he does leave, where will he go? To the Western Conference, where he has to play literally almost every team before he can get into the finals. With that being said, he'll probably get out in the second round, depending on where he goes. If he goes to the Lakers, he probably won't make it out the first, if we're being honest here. So With that being said, Cleveland is definitely won the offseason. I believe that LeBron James is definitely a solidified re-sign in Cleveland now because there's no other destination that I could see LeBron going.
All right, so I got a few questions for you. One for each of you, actually. So, we obviously the biggest signing for Oklahoma City, Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. That's a given. With the struggles that Carmelo had in New York, how does putting him on a new team fix those struggles?
Well, one, he wore a hoodie to media day, so it seems like Hoodie Melo is here in the NBA. He wore a hoodie to their first scrimmage too, which I think is very important. What if Carmelo Anthony breaks out the hoodie during the season? This could be revolutionary. In all seriousness, no, I'm not really that concerned for Melo's fit with the Thunder. Because in New York, he was forced to be this number one option. He clearly did not want Kristaps Porzingis to pass him in who's going to get the ball most for New York. He wanted to be his team. It very clearly was not his team. And I think the Thunder very clearly aren't his team either. But that's important because it's not like it's Kristaps Porzingis being the number one option, someone who Melo might think he's better than. It's Russell Westbrook. Carmelo Anthony knows that Russell Westbrook is getting the ball in crunch time. I think Melo in this offense is pretty clearly the third option behind George and Westbrook. And I think that's a really good thing for Melo because whenever Melo's at his best, it's during the Olympics when he's with so many superstars. He gets to be the perfect Kyle Korver. I think that's a role he can fill with the Oklahoma City Thunder, except maybe not Kyle Korver as much as a Ryan Anderson, a guy who can play stretch four. He can make these crazy passing lanes for guys like Westbrook, especially with Patterson at 5. You can literally run a 5 shooters lineup now in Oklahoma City with Patterson at 5 and Melo at 4. I think Melo is a perfect fit for the Thunder. I'm not worried about the fit at all.
Okay. Last question for you for this one. Derrick Rose has always had injury problems. We mentioned him coming off the bench. What happens if he gets hurt?
If he gets hurt, I mean, will be very tragic for the Cleveland Cavaliers, seeing that after Derrick Rose, there isn't any other backup point guards on the team. With that said, that would hurt their chances to compete during the postseason if Derrick Rose was to go down. And looking at them coming into the season, they have Isaiah Thomas, who will be hurt to start off the season. However, what really matters for them is ultimately the postseason. Regardless, they're a lock for the number 1 seed this year with their revamped roster. They now have Jay Crowder as well on defense there. That will be their number 1 defensive stopper
10 seconds.
to put on the opposing team's best offensive player. With that being said, I feel as if they've revamped their offense to where they have the opportunity to just go all the way.
All right, so obviously you guys both make really good cases for both the Thunder and the Cavaliers. I really do think that, Oklahoma City, your arguments for Oklahoma City were sound. Your arguments for Cleveland, you can't go wrong, apparently, according to your arguments, with an all-star lineup. And I do believe that your analysis of, having an all-star coming off the bench, really does put them ahead. So for question number 1, point goes to Nick Stokes. Nick Stokes now leads 1-0. Still anybody's game, though, here for bragging rights. Let's move on to question number 2. NBA Rookie of the Year. Who is it and why? Nick Stokes, you have the floor.
All right. I'm going to make a very wild prediction that probably no viewer at home would consider. However, this is going to happen, mark my words. We're going to see for the first time in a while a co-rookie of the year. However, this will be the first time that they're on the same team. Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons will be co-rookies of the year this season. Trust the process. These two players, with Ben Simmons being a point forward type player and Markelle Fultz being a traditional scorer at the point guard position. However, they'll be able to turn that, flip their roles around in the offense where Ben Simmons will bring the ball up the court and Markelle Fultz makes his way to get open in the offense and does what he does off the ball well on the dribble. With that being said, I believe that Ben Simmons brings so much tenacity as well as athleticism to the game that you cannot disregard or overlook. He will be crashing the boards, running the offense, facilitating the offense, making plays for his teammates, as well as getting people open and making defensive plays like chase down blocks, making sure he gets those blocks,
10
boxing
seconds.
out on the boards. With Markelle Fultz, that's a great player who knows how to steal, play defense, get great points from the perimeter as well as the inside the arc.
I'm going to have to stop
with
you
his
there.
layups and
Time is
floaters.
up. Jacob Bonner, you have the floor. Rookie of the year and why?
How is it not Lonzo Ball? I mean, other than the obvious that he's Lonzo Ball, he's a true superstar before entering the league. which is something rare for a rookie, but that's really not why he should be Rookie of the Year. The reason I think Lonzo's going to be the Rookie of the Year is because of the impact he's going to have on the Lakers. Coach Luke Walton has already said that they have a point guard that likes to push the pace, so they're going to be pushing the pace more this year. Magic Johnson has already compared Lonzo to himself in Media Day, which was last week. I think Lonzo is unquestionably a superstar. We saw him dominate Summer League, and yes, it's Summer League, it doesn't totally matter. But the way he sees passing angles, it's so much different than any other player that the Lakers have. And the reason that I think Lonzo is going to be Rookie of the Year is because of his role with the Lakers. For Fultz and Simmons, their role with the Sixers, it's a little bit questionable. Like, what are they actually going to do? Both of them are used to being the main facilitator of an offense. Neither of them are used to having to share the ball with another person. And it's a tough. We see that's a tough transition with players in the NBA.
10 seconds.
Like when Dwayne Wade and LeBron both had some problems playing together in the Heat for the first year. But that problem is so much bigger if they're both entering the league together. Lonzo just is going to be the starting point guard from the jump,
Time
and
is
Lonzo
up.
point guard. I mean, hard to beat that.
All right. So, Nick, your chance to rebuttal his opinion on Lonzo Ball.
Well, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong, mainly because that's the popular opinion, that Lonzo Ball will be the Rookie of the Year. What matters is the play during this upcoming season. Lonzo Ball has not been the greatest shooter, and we will see that this season coming with his unorthodox jumper that he has. With that being said, if he can't find a way to put the ball into the bucket himself, rather than only being able to rely on his passing skills, then I don't see him being able to capture the title of Rookie of the Year during this upcoming NBA season. I know for a fact that Markelle Fultz has the ability to do all of those things, put the ball in the basket, get up the floor, run the floor, as well as looking at Ben Simmons with the rebounding and his tenacity and his versatility and doing almost anything on the floor, being able to defend 1 through 5. I feel as if that teamwork, as well as if they can cooperatively work together, they automatically win Rookie of the
10
Year,
seconds.
especially seeing that Ben Simmons was the definite Rookie of the Year before last season, before he got hurt.
All right, Jacob, real quick, rebuttal.
I don't know how you're going to talk about Lonzo's three-point shooting and not as if you're not defending Ben Simmons. He proved last year he's a pretty good three-point shooter. No matter what his shot looks like, he still shot over the college average last year with UCLA. Ben Simmons is an awful three-point shooter. Simmons shot very poorly with LSU, and for a perimeter player, which he is, you said he's going to bring the ball up the court. That's a huge liability in your offense to have a point guard who can't shoot. Lonzo can shoot. He's a good shot. He has a nice shot off the dribble. It's yet to be seen if he can create his own shot. But again, that's not his role with the Lakers. Lonzo's role with the Lakers is going to be to take the ball up the court, to push the pace, to find guys open. Guys like Kyle Kuzma, like we saw during the Summer League. How often Lonzo found Kuzma open. Lonzo's going to be leading transition. He's going to be starting
10
fast
seconds.
breaks. I think saying Lonzo's three-point shooting is a little bit, it's not realizing that Lonzo's shot, despite looking weird, it's definitely effective, and it's definitely better than Simmons's.
Your time is up. Glad you finished up. Okay, so based on the analysis I've heard and, the analysis of, former college players and how they will fit in the role, the point is going to go to Jacob Bonner. Jacob, great analysis on the type of role that Lonzo Ball is going to fit in with the Lakers. And, I think that was, a very strong argument. So we're all tied up at 1. Moving on, 3 more.
I give you that, Jake.
3 more questions left. We are running out of time, so we do need to, kind of speed through these next 2 questions. They are pretty easy questions to answer. So the first one, top 3 finish in the West and why? Jacob Bonner.
I'm going to go with Warriors, Spurs, Thunder. I already talked about the Thunder. I really do not think I have to explain the Warriors. So I'm going to go and talk about the San Antonio Spurs, because I feel like that's a team that many people undervalue every year, despite the fact that every single season they come back with another 60 wins and another 2 seed in the West. I really like this Spurs team this year. I think Kawhi Leonard might be a robot playing basketball. He's the perfect superstar to have in today's NBA. This team has so much three-point shooting, so much spacing. Their big guys can shoot. LaMarcus Aldridge, Pau Gasol can both shoot. This is a Spurs team that led the league in three-point percentage last season. It's also a Spurs team that has led the league in real defensive plus-minus for the last 2 seasons. This is an incredible defensive team.
10
That's something
seconds.
very underrated that the Spurs have. So much shooting, so much defense, and a perfect superstar with Kawhi Leonard. I don't know what more you could ask.
Nick?
All right, before I start, tell me your 3 one more time.
Warriors, Spurs, Thunder.
All right, you messed up with the Spurs. Spurs will be the 4th seed. 2nd seed, Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are coming off of a season where they've done some really spectacular things, and they've made an addition, added an addition to the team with Chris Paul, a perennial all-star, another guy who can space the floor with his passing and make plays whenever needed. Same thing you already had with James Harden. Now, a lot of people may say that that duo may not work well together, but let's break up the duo. Let's say there's Chris Paul on the floor and James Harden on the bench. And then say James Harden is on the floor, and then Chris Paul is on the bench. It's literally the same thing on the court at all times. And then when you have both of them on the floor together, that's 2 visionary passers who have 2 totally different or keen or unique vision for the floor that'll be able to make plays for their shooters. There are multiple shooters on the team. So with that being said, I see Golden State, Houston Rockets, OKC as the top 3 seeds in the West.
So why the Spurs over the Rockets?
I think the Rockets lost too much in the Chris Paul trade. And that's a big thing because Chris Paul is an injury-prone guy. We're talking about which teams are going to finish higher in the regular season standings, not which team is going to do best in the playoffs. And then a lot can be said about James Harden in the playoffs. But Chris Paul's an injury-prone guy. He seems to miss January every season. And if Paul's not there, who's going to be the point guard other than Harden? Right? They lost Patrick Beverley. They lost Lou Williams in this trade. They also lost Montrezl Harrell. It's a huge loss. Clint Capella got hurt last year. Harrell was a pretty important center for them. They don't have that anymore. They simply don't have the depth to weather injuries. And that's a really important thing if you're going to aim for a top 3 finish because regular season games actually matter if you're going for a top 3 finish.
10 seconds.
I think the Spurs is different. They have so much depth. They re-signed Patty Mills over the offseason. I love DeJounte Murray, the young point guard out of Washington, and Kyle Anderson from UCLA. I think that's 2 really good ball distributors. I think the Spurs are simply a better team, they're deeper teams, which will lead them to be a higher seed.
So why the Rockets over the Spurs?
I believe that the Rockets have a better regular season record than the Spurs will, mainly because of their firepower that they have on the offensive side of the ball, and that is definitely what is taking over in the Western Conference side of things. Now, like you say, they have Kawhi Leonard, who is the clear course superstar for their team. However, you now have James Harden, who is a prolific scorer, shoots from anywhere, range, with the vision, Euros. However, gets to the rack with ease. And now you add Chris Paul, who is literally a clone image of that, but shorter. So you have 2 players who have the exact same unique concepts or figures or way they play the game,
10 seconds.
which really accentuates what they do on the floor. And I believe that if you can keep a consistent floor distributor or floor captain on the floor at all times who is an all-star and has that influence on their teammates, that really catapults their chances during the regular season against the teams that aren't as well as they are.
So, man, this is a tough one to pick. Both you guys gave great explanations. I do think that, regardless of whether Houston finishes 2nd or 4th, I do think the top 4 will be Golden State, Houston, OKC, and San Antonio in no particular order. The point goes to the person, though, that gave me a better player analysis on why, they were going to, do well. And the point is going to go to Jacob Bonner. He takes question number 3. Score is 2-1 in favor of Jacob Bonner. Now we have 2 questions left. So now we're going to flip to the Eastern Conference. Top 3 in the East, and why?
I think, again, we're going to have 2 of the same players. I'm going to assume you also have the Cavs and the Celtics. I think those are pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. So I'm going to go with my 3rd seed, and that's the Toronto Raptors, who really didn't do a lot this offseason, but they stayed where they were, which is important because the rest of the East took about 10 steps back. I think the Raptors are in a really good spot right now. They re-signed Kyle Lowry over the offseason. They made sure they got Serge Ibaka under contract. I think this is a team that could be really good this season. Lowry, DeRozan is obviously a great combination for guards, probably among the best you're going to find in the league for a guard combination. And then guys like Norman Powell, who have become so much better since entering the league. He's going to be starting at 3 this year. He's gotten so much better. Jonas Valanciunas has really become a big bruising center in the middle. Guys like Ibaka can stretch the floor, and they can also hit the outside shot and defend shots inside. I really like the Raptors to finish 3rd this year.
All right, Nick?
Well, yeah, we do agree with the Cavs and the Celtics first and second. However, I would disagree with you. I'm going to go with the Washington Wizards being the third seed in the Eastern Conference this year. I believe that John Wall, since we're talking about guard play, the backcourts of the Eastern Conference, I believe that the John Wall and Bradley Beal duo or team or matchup is better than the Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan matchup, in my opinion. Kyle Lowry has been somewhat inconsistent sometimes and not showing up when it matters the most. I feel as if the playoff experience that the Washington Wizards gained last season has really shaped their minds heading into this season, giving them more of an experience of what they'll be facing or coming up against after the regular season. With that said, they re-signed Otto Porter. I look at Otto Porter to become a 15-point scorer, 8 rebound guy that did perfect utility person for their perfect dynamic 1-2 punch that they have in Washington.
All right. So why the Raptors over the Wizards?
I think that's because the Wizards don't really have a lot of depth. And that's an important thing in the NBA, especially, again, with guys who get hurt a lot, guys like Bradley Beal. I don't think Beal has made it through an 82-game season yet in his career. And the Raptors have depth, and I don't think the Wizards do. The Wizards lost Bojan Bogdanovic over the offseason, who's a guy they paid a first-round pick to play for their team for like 3 months. Very much not ideal. He leaves, and I think their best bench player now is Kelly Oubre, Oubre is solid, but I don't know after that. It might be like Jan Mahimi or maybe Tomas Sedorensky, and really those are not very good options. I don't know what their plan is going to be if someone gets hurt. The Raptors, meanwhile, I love their bench. They, in fact, were so confident with their bench this offseason that they traded away Corey Joseph, who's an important bench player, for C.J. Miles, who's a guy I really like at the 3 spot because they felt so confident in Delon Wright, their backup point guard. The Raptors also have guys like Jacob Poeltl, who last year was a top 10 pick, guys like Pascal Siakam, who's a great energy player.
Last point.
I think the Raptors have better depth, and because of that, they will be the 3 seed.
All right. Why the Wizards over the Raptors?
Well, to be honest with you, in the Eastern Conference, looking at the rosters that they have, the depth doesn't really matter as we go down the line. It's about the production of the players. What really matters most is the consistency, and I believe that the Washington Wizards is the more consistent group out of those 2 teams. With that said, you just mentioned that Kelly Oubre is not a bad player. I honestly believe that Kelly Oubre could shock some people and become a potential 6th Man of the Year candidate by the end of the year. He has that offensive game. He can bring buckets to the court whenever needed if you insert him in at the right time off of the bench. He has been a streaky shooter, yes. However, he can make those plays and razzle dazzle the crowd, give the points where they need it. Shoot the ball off the dribble or even off the catch, spot up jumpers in the corner as well as making plays in the mid range. With that said, I feel as if the John Wall and Bradley Beal duo have what it takes to take it to the Toronto Raptors organization, and I just don't see the Toronto Raptors making it anywhere in the playoffs.
So both very good arguments. The point is going to go to, again, the person who gave me the reason why, the team was going to go far. And I do believe that the reason why teams are going to go far is their starting core and, how well those guys play. And the person to convey that the best was Nick Stokes. So we are all tied up at 2-2. We go to the tie-breaking question. So, again, 1 minute to talk, minute to rebuttal. We are running out of time, so let's move efficiently. Give me an NBA Finals champion.
Let's do it. Cleveland Cavaliers. It's that simple. Yes, they just lost to the Golden State Warriors, who have revamped their roster to look like the Western Conference All-Star team. However, the Cleveland Cavaliers have managed to make their roster look like the Eastern Conference All-Star team. They now have multiple assets. They may not be much of a shooting team as much as the Golden State Warriors are. However, they have a more all-around and inclusive team. They have guys that can hurt you from the deep as well as penetrate the offense or make plays and get to the basket, as well as defense. They now add Jay Crowder to their team. That's a good person that you can put on the best offensive player on the other team to give some type of leeway towards LeBron so he can guard the second best player or the third best player, so he'll have more energy during the postseason. And I believe that will definitely help
the cut you off right there. Time is up. Jacob Bonner, give me a champion.
I think it's got to be the Warriors. We just saw them do it to the Cavs this past offseason, the Cavs did make a lot of improvements, you're right. But I don't really know how much these improvements are going to help. What all is Dwayne Wade going to do that J.R. Smith really can't? Wade's got the chemistry of LeBron. Wade does not have the shooting that J.R. Smith does, and he certainly doesn't have the athleticism or the defense that he used to. I really don't know how much Wade helps them. I also really don't know how much Jay Crowder helps them against the Warriors. And I'm going to be specific against the Warriors because I think Crowder is a key addition to the Cavs. But against the Warriors, he's too slow to guard Kevin Durant, and he's too slow to guard Klay Thompson. Those are the two guys I would be putting him on. I think what you have to do, and you're right, you want LeBron to float around and almost play free safety on defense against the Warriors.
10 seconds.
But he really can't do that against this iteration of the Warriors because LeBron has to guard Durant. I think Crowder is too slow for Durant. I don't think LeBron can play free safety. I think you have to play Crowder on Draymond and LeBron on Durant.
Okay, well, with that said, I believe that works perfectly fine for the Cleveland Cavaliers, if we're being totally honest with you. Let's put Jay Crowder on Draymond Green. If you ask me, that's a great matchup. I feel as if both of them will have struggles against one another. LeBron and KD, you let LeBron focus on KD. All right, Dwayne Wade on Klay Thompson. The Flash on Klay Thompson. I mean, I feel as if that's automatic clamps. Klay Thompson can't really score or make plays on his own. It's really more off of the pass, catch and shoot. He's the catch and shoot type of guy. As long as the Flash can stay in front of him, then what problems do they run into? Isaiah Thomas, he's more quick on his feet. That's somebody that I believe would defend Steph Curry better than Kyrie Irving is. To be honest with you, he's more quick on his feet. He's more agile. He can make it through tight or closed spaces. So I believe that they have revamped their roster that really reiterates the Golden State roster that really competes with them in a whole totally different fashion this year.
Thank you. Jacob?
3 points. One, I don't know how you think Dwayne Wade is going to guard Klay Thompson. Klay's got 3 inches, a ton of speed on him, and I think Klay really is a good isolation scorer, but he's more importantly a good isolation defender. Next point, we have not brought up the name Steph Curry yet, really. Curry is by so far the third best player in this finals if this happens to be the third finals again. I think Curry is in the same category of NBA superstars as Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard, and I don't think Isaiah Thomas or really whoever else is even close to that. I think Curry is pretty clearly the third best player in the finals. I think that's pivotal for why the Warriors have the better chance. And third, it's got to be Steve Kerr.
10 seconds.
If right now you were to trust one coach to follow into battle, Kerr or Ty Lue, I'm taking Steve Kerr every single time. I think the Warriors, I love their matchup against the Cavs in the finals. And I think it's even a question right now, is Durant nearly as good as LeBron? The fact that that's a question, the Warriors should be the winner.
Okay, so great argument from both sides. Man, again, this is a tough one, 2-2. I am going to give it to the person who came in with the most knowledge of not just with one player, but with the entire team. And for his analysis on breaking down the entire depth chart, bragging rights for this week's episodes goes to Nick Stokes. Nick Stokes, ladies and gentlemen, owns bragging rights. Jacob Bonner falls to 1-1 on the year. Nick Stokes 1-0. He'll take on Corey Sanding next week. Do not miss it. For Adam Versal, Nick Stokes, and Jacob Bonner, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.